you in for another installment this week. Today I'm going to be talking about eating for happiness. So I actually don't have any food with me today. We're just going to talk generally about how a good diet and stuff like that can actually help you feel a little bit happier without necessarily, taking anything else, just by eating your food. Okay, so obviously, like, everyone wants to be more happy, and one of the simplest ways to do this is through what we eat. Unfortunately, things like depression and anxiety are like growing in our society. Unfortunately, like 45% of people in Australia at some stage will experience a mental health condition. And yeah, that's not really good. And I really think, but let's face it, depression sucks. So we actually don't want to go there. So today I'm not going to talk about the kind of depression or anxiety that would make you go and get help. So many of us don't even go and get help. This is more in terms of the things like, maybe you've just lost a little bit of that like joy in your life, and things aren't as, I suppose, happy and stuff as what you used to be, but it's definitely not in terms of like a medical diagnosis of a depression and anxiety. There's a reason why depression and anxiety are called a disorder. You aren't meant to feel like that. Medications for those kind of things definitely treat the symptoms, but not necessarily always the cause. Now, I always think the path into an illness, the path out of an illness is by investigating the path that got you there in the first place. The impact of mental health disorders is quite wide-reaching. They can have things like lack of sleep, feeling overwhelmed, not remembering things, eating too much, eating too little, that kind of feeling like hopeless. Those kind of things are generally what people experience. Now, these may not be a common everyday occurrence for you. Maybe they just creep into your day every now and then. But I would definitely listen to your body when you are experiencing these, and especially if you are experiencing them a little bit more frequently. And maybe, like we're going to look at today, look at some of the things you're eating and might be able to help reverse some of that. So, can nutrition actually make you happier? The way our body interacts with food is quite complex. Our brain uses the food that we eat, to work. And it's a pretty greedy organ. It needs lots of nutrients, water, oxygens, proteins, fats, carbohydrates, all those vitamins and minerals to do its job. The brain needs to make neurotransmitters, which process through our body and tells our body all the different things that it needs to do. So if we are depriving our body of all those nutrients that I just spoke about, the brain is also deprived. So it's not making as many of those neurotransmitters. Now, a scary statistic, in Australia, 95% of adults do not get the required servings of 5 vegetables and 2 fruits a day. Now, vegetables are our biggest supplier of vitamins and minerals for our bodies. So if we're not eating vegetables, not eating our 5 servings of vegetables a day, what are we eating instead? Unfortunately, it generally is processed food, and that also can have an impact on mental health. There was a study that was done, and it showed that having a diet that was highly processed increased depressive tendencies by 60% because of the nutrient deficiency. So the effects of poor nutrition. The GI tract, so our gastrointestinal tract, so the small intestine and our large intestines, they absorb all the nutrients needed for our body, including the nutrients needed for our brain. It also helps remove and constrain some of those harmful substances and helps us get rid of them. So to do this, it needs some beneficial bacteria. This bacteria allows our GI tract to extract all those necessary minerals, help use those vitamins in all our different body processes, and it digests our food. When this becomes out of whack, it's often because of some kind of irritation or some kind of inflammation in our body. And this leads to pretty much what is described as leaky gut. It's where particles enter our blood that weren't meant to be there. Now, the blood's role is to provide oxygen, remove waste, and carry nutrients. Now, 60 litres of blood is pumped into our brain every hour. So that obviously helps get all those nutrients. Like I said, the brain is really greedy. It needs those nutrients to work. But also, if it's got some of those particles and stuff that aren't meant to be there, that kind of junk, it's actually going to also find its way into our brain. Obviously, this is not great, and it does increase the inflammation. So like we said, the leaky gut is caused by the inflammation, and they actually can then enhance the inflammation by getting into our brain and into our blood supply. So it's kind of like this horrible never-ending cycle. And now our bodies are constantly fighting inflammation. It's quite a normal process, but it does become a problem when our body doesn't turn off that inflammation response. It becomes chronic inflammation. So we need those really good nutrients to help support our gut and make sure all that bacteria is working properly. Our happy hormone, serotonin, is also made in our gut and not in our brain. So if our gut isn't working properly, it doesn't have all those vitamins and minerals it needs, it actually can't convert into this hormone. So there's a lack of it. Now that directly impacts how we feel each day. We also need food to feed our mitochondria. Now I've spoken about mitochondria in a few other videos. They're the little powerhouses in our bodies that literally make all our cells work. So if we are not feeding these with really good nutrients from our vegetables, then those little mitochondria aren't working very hard. They directly affect the way our brain functions, as well as our cognition and all the energy that we have. Now, I know for me, when I'm lacking a little bit of energy, it's probably when I don't necessarily feel my happiest. So having those little energy systems working really hard definitely can help improve that happiness. So what can we eat? So pretty much anything that makes our bodies healthier will make our brain healthier. It will help improve our GI tract, it decreases the inflammation, increase the production of energy with those important vitamins and minerals and hormones. So some of the main key ones are omega-3s. Now that's a fatty acid. Our body can't actually produce that fatty acid. We need to get it from our food sources. So the best way to get this is through things like oily fish, salmon, mackerel, sardines, nuts like walnuts, hazelnuts, pecan nuts, seeds, flax and chia seeds are really good for stuff like that. These are really good for brain function, and a lot of them have been shown to actually ease the signs of depression. Therefore, having lots of omega-3 is really good. All our B vitamins, I've definitely spoken about B vitamins before, and I can encourage you to eat enough vegetables to make sure that we're continually getting all those B vitamins. They not only make you happier, they make the whole body system just work better. Now, they're pretty much found in every food: meat,